Hello everybody, Jake your resident content cowboy here. Yeehaw, it's Monday. On Mondays we do tier lists and on Wednesdays we wear pink. Now, before we hop into it and before I even hit you with the we wear pink moment, I have to say that the last time I made a tier list was when Rapidash was unbelievably broken. So I haven't made a tier list for Suicune and I haven't made a tier list for the new Speedster meta. I kind of wanted to let things shake up a little bit and see what it looked like, and honestly, this is one of the biggest shifts we've seen in a very long time, so I thought this would be a good moment to get in here and really dive into this tier list. So, on Mondays, we wear pink.
Is there alcohol in this?
Oh God, honey, no. What kind of mother do you think I am? Why do you want a little bit? Because if you're gonna drink, I'd rather you do it in the house.
All right, let's take a look at our tiers here. We are inside of a Speedster meta, which I would hope changes slightly soon. However, I do think it has delivered us some really exciting games in UCS, and moreover, I kind of like that we actually have some change to this tier list. This is what it looked like when Rapidash released, when Rapidash was unbelievably broken. Let me fix one thing, hold on. Okay, that's a little bit better. It gives us a better opportunity to use the space, as they say in theater. And of course here, we are all theater kids for Pokemon Unite. Let's take a look at our tiers. We have our God tier, where I only place one Pokemon. We're not friggin' Norse around here. We have our S tier. These things are the best in the game. This will probably just be called the Speedster tier for this one. We have our A+ tier, incredibly good Pokemon that are amazing. We have our A tier, really, really solid and often not banned out, which is really good. Things in the S tier are often banned, the A+ tier, but you know what? Based on how people are drafting right now, honestly, I don't even worry about bans. Nobody's banning anything. B+ tier, these are all Pokemon that are really good, a little bit better than kind of the meh that is the B tier. We still got the B tier. By the way, new B tier channel up on YouTube, so if you want to check me out playing other games besides Pocket and Unite, I've got that. Still got the B tier. We have our C tier, our Charizard tier. These Pokemon are underwhelming. And then our D tier, the Decidueye Memorial tier. These Pokemon I feel like have been completely forgotten or screwed up in some really bizarre way. And of course we have Suicune that just joined the roster. I'll set it into the Decidueye Memorial tier for now while we start to rearrange everything on this tier list. So I think the most reasonable thing to do is just talk about what big change has happened first. That is Gengar, Meowscarada, Absol, and where's my last little buddy here? Talonflame. All four of these Pokemon have made their way to our S tier. No question about it. These are some of the best things in the game. They were all buffed in multiple ways. Some that made sense, some that, well, here we are. And these Pokemon are the best of the best in almost every respect. There are other Pokemon that are in our S tier, but there is no question that these four Pokemon are crazy good, overbuffed, and while I actually do really enjoy the idea of what they're trying to do with them, they overtuned it quite a bit, and I would bet you money or gems or coins, as I have 500,000 coins. I would bet you coins inside Pokemon Unite, or those little black Dorito things. I'll bet you 500 Doritos that we are going to see nerfs for these Pokemon here. Now, I don't think that they're going to make them terrible. I think what they will probably do is lower some of the stat increases that they so they'll kind of try to balance it a little bit, but all of these Pokemon could still wind up being some of the best things in the game after that change. We have our Galarian Rapidash, who was in our God tier. This Pokemon was nerfed in such a massive way. So here's what happened with Galarian Rapidash. It was released, and it was dummy broken. Then, it was not nerfed when it was available for gems. Then, it was not nerfed when it was available for coins for a week. Then it was not nerfed when it was available for coins for 2 weeks. I just want to bring this timeline out here because so many people have said that Galarian Rapidash was pay to win, and it really wasn't outside of the first gem week. This was just a phenomenally broken release that they balanced horribly, and they have now balanced it horribly. It is the worst Pokemon in the game, and I don't think it's particularly close. They released An unbelievably powerful Pokemon, waited an absurd amount of time to adjust it instead of, in the first couple days, recognizing it was broken and tuning it all back a little bit to kind of see where that would shake out. They let it be broken for 3 weeks, and now it is broken in another way, where if you play it, you actually lose. So it used to give you a very good win rate, and now it guarantees your opponents have a very solid win rate. Galarian Rapidash is without question the worst Pokemon in the game, and it's sitting as the lone Pokemon in our Decidueye Memorial tier. Now, okay, part of the question as to what happens with the rest of our tier list here is, how does the rest of our tier list actually look given what has happened in the meta with some of these new speedsters? And the fact of the matter is, a lot of attackers, like a lot of the squishier Pokemon, are doing even worse because of how good speedsters are in this meta. Even all-rounders and things like that are doing worse because of how good speedsters are in this meta. It's just really tough because a Pokemon that normally was doing, okay, like maybe something like Gardevoir, doesn't fare particularly well when 4 Pokemon can dive in on it and delete it almost immediately. Not only can they do that to Guardy, but they can do that to a lot of the roster. So I do have to say that it feels like in this patch, the chasm between the haves and have-nots could never be more clear. So this is an unfortunate issue that this patch is suffering from. First off, we could talk about another Pokemon that got buffs, Snorlax. Snorlax is actually sneakily one of the best things in the entire game. It is S tier, and I should talk about Suicune here in a moment. So the speedsters, the Snorlax, and the Suicune. Snorlax is actually, in some ways, the best thing in the game, but the speedsters are kind of making you not realize that. Suicune is also like that. Now, when I first played Suicune, it didn't seem as phenomenally broken as I feel like it is now, for a few reasons. I couldn't get it every game. You play a couple games here and there. You're dealing with a Talonflame that deletes you no matter what, and it doesn't feel that unbelievably powerful. But what has happened with Suicune and Snorlax, to a lesser extent, because I think some people are kind of picking up on Snorlax, these Pokemon have released or been buffed, like Snorlax, in a meta that seems absurd. So if Suicune released right now in the Mewtwo Y meta, you wouldn't really think about it at all. You'd be like, oh yeah, it's all right, it's pretty good. But you wouldn't think about it the same way because there's this other overpowered thing that is sort of casting a very large shadow on the rest of the meta. But there is no question that Suicune is one of the best things going in the game. I was wondering, how good is Suicune really? And I was playing games with it. I was like, it's all right. I liked one build better than the other. And then I started playing like all the different builds and I realized, actually, the first build I tried was really good. And then I was taking a look at the win rates for this Pokemon right here. The win rates are incredible. And me playing it, sorry if that volume hit very loud right there, but my win rate on it is 72% this season. That's pretty high, actually. So you're not going to get a ton of information out of your win rates, right? Like, I've only played 6 games with Talon. I've only played 10 games with Meowscarada. I haven't, spent an insane amount of time this season with the game right now because of Remote Stadium, to be honest. But Suicune is at 72%. And that's not just having only fortunate games. This Pokemon is insanely good. One of the best things in Unite. Let's take a look at the rest of our tier list here. Miraidon, Umbreon, Psyduck, and Blissey. I think all of these except Miraidon stay into our S tier. Miraidon can move down to A+. I still think Miraidon's very good, but honestly, it doesn't perform that well in a speedster meta. Yeah, I don't think it's that amazing in a speedster meta. Blissey, Psyduck, and Umbreon are still insanely good for their roles. Incredible. They're probably not as good as some of these speedsters in some ways, but they're, for their roles, crazy, crazy good. Trev, Mamo, Blastoise, these all kind of stay where they are, I would say. I can even maybe move Blastoise down 1 to our A tier. I think that's probably fair. Tinkaton had one viable build and it got nerfed. I have no idea what they were doing. At best, I could put this Pokemon into A. It might even be slightly worse than that. Very confusing that they nerfed this thing. Aegislash, I still think is one of the best all-rounders going. Garchomp, very, very good. Mimikyu, very good and also able to deal with some of these speedsters, which is solid. Zacian, for my money, is actually probably the best all-rounder in the game. Zarina, I'm going to tick down one tier. I think it's very good, but I do think the nerfs have hurt it a bit. Blaziken. Blaziken for me is also one of the best all-rounders in the game. I don't know why so many people were sleeping on this Pokemon. It won Worlds and then it got a minor buff. Excuse me, a minor nerf. Could you imagine, by the way? A minor nerf. I don't think it's bad at all. Dark Bear, I think, is very, very good. I could maybe move it down to the A tier. Cerulege, I will move down a tier as well. Cerulege may be closer to B+. I still think it's very good, especially in solo queue. Greedent. Greedent's a weird one. I'm going to move Greedent down to our A tier also. I think Greedent is very good, but it's just very specific. And, you know, what's to be said about it? Greninja, I think, does lose value. Not an insane amount, but it does lose value in this meta a little bit. I'm going to move it down to our A tier. The reason Greninja loses value is because some of these other speedsters essentially do a very similar job to Greninja, but they just do it better right now, and they like burst Greninja in one hit. Espeon, however, I think is still extremely solid. Mewtwo Y, extremely solid. Mewtwo Y, actually, for me, I'm going to move Miraidon over here for whatever it's worth. Mewtwo Y for me is actually probably the best attacker in the game in some ways. Its ability to double eject button, essentially, to teleport on a cooldown that's like 10 seconds long, plus have an unstoppable and attack at range, it actually plays really well into this meta. Espeon as well, very, very good into this meta. It has a Unite move that punishes you for diving. A lot of these speedsters want to dive. And it outranges things like Suicune, so it's very, very solid. Glaceon does worse in this meta. It's not terrible. I'm going to move it down to our A tier, though. I still think Glaceon is quite powerful, but at the same time, when people are diving on your head, you're in a lot of trouble. Eldegoss and Hoopa are staying here in our A+ tier. I think they're almost Blissey Psyduck good, but just maybe one rung below, right? Supporters and defenders in general are incredibly powerful. You want them on your squad. These ones are really good. Gren, we just moved down. Inteleon, I'm actually going to move up. I think Inteleon is in the ranks with these others. It got buffed since we last talked. I don't even know why, but it did. Fair enough. Pikachu, I think, does pretty well in this meta. It's still good. It gets kind of deleted, but its Unite move, Volt Tackle, Electro Ball, all of it actually plays well into these speedsters. It is just like all the attackers, they kind of get deleted. Mew, I'm not moving. I think Mew is still quite good, even though you need insane skill to play it. Gardevoir, I am moving down to our B+ tier. I just don't think you want to play a mage like that in this meta. Unfortunately, it just gets kind of dumpstered. Dodrio, Leafeon, Darkrai, Zoroark, all good speedsters, but definitely not our top tier speedsters. No question. The other ones are much better. They are still strong carry Pokemon, but man, if you have the choice, you would pick the others. We talked about Zarina. I still think it's good, but it got some nerfs. Dark Bear, quite good. Tink is actually maybe high on this list right now. I haven't seen what happened to Tink's win rate. I can just tell you that nerfing Tinkaton, considering it only had one viable moveset and was not crushing it, is insane to me. Buzzwole is actually very good, I think, in this meta. It deals with these speedsters quite well with a crazy amount of crowd control. I'm moving Buzzwole up to the A+ tier. I think Buzzwole is very good in this meta. Metagross also pretty solid. Gyarados, I'm going to move down. Feels like Gary gets punished a little bit by this. I don't think Gary's bad, but I also think it's kind of slow to get online. And you can really get slowed down by how quick the games go at the start with these speedsters, so that can be tough. All right. We talked about Greedent. Blastoise, I still think is quite good. Lapras is probably not A. It's probably closer to B+. A good defender, but maybe not setting the world on fire. Freezing it instead. Slowbro in some ways gets better in a meta like this. Slow Beam is just incredible at shutting down overpowered targets. I'm going to keep it A tier, though. I think that's solid. I think Wiggly and Mime are actually both really good here. They feel like secondary choices to things like Umbreon, Snorlax, Trevenant, Mamoswine. However, I do think they're all quite solid. And if there's not an Umbreon on the other side, like Wiggly's Shield is insanely good. Okay, to our B+ tier. In all fairness, I could move a lot of these attackers lower. I don't think they're awful. I just think all attackers are kind of doing fine. You know what? Maybe I should. I'm going to move Guardy down to B. I probably keep A9. Decidueye maybe like C tier right now. Delphox probably B. Chandelure probably B. Armarouge, yeah, B. Cinderace can stay. Zeraora can stay. Zeraora is actually probably a little better than this. It's a weird speedster. It's probably actually in line with a lot of these. Scyther is it's fine. We've got Gary, Char, Mewtwo X. I never see Mewtwo X. I truly have no idea. Honestly, I have to just move it down. I have no idea. I don't know. I never see this Pokemon. Dragonite's fine. Scizor is fine. Water Bear is probably actually a little better than this. Lucario's fine. Probably a little better than this. Clefable's a hard one. I'm going to keep it in our B tier right here. The thing about Clefable is when things are so bursty, it's hard for Clefable to get its healing online, but I actually think most people are sleeping on just how good this thing is. Lapras, Crustle, Goodra, all solid. They're all pretty good. Ho-Oh, I think, is better than this. Ho-Oh got buffed since the last time we talked. I'm going to move it up to our A tier. I actually think Ho-Oh is pretty dang solid right now. As we look at our B tier, and just to give some insight on some of these Pokemon real quick, Lola Ninetales still really good early, plays good in lane, isn't too bad into things trying to dive it with Aurora Veil, and is really annoying if you try to jump at it when it has Blizzard Avalanche. Cinderace, auto attacker, does pretty well, has good enough mobility to get around some of this stuff. Scyther is a speedster that's not as good as the other speedsters. It's fine, it can carry. Gary, we talked about. Char is actually decent, but it takes a long time to get online. Dragonite's kind of the same thing. Scizor doesn't have a lot that it wants to brawl with right now, so, that's not super ideal for it. Water Bear is good, but insanely high skill. Lucario is pretty good, and then the rest we just talked about. Our B tier, a lot of these attackers are just too dang squishy, don't do enough to a Talonflame landing on their heads, so they're all going to hang out in B for me. Again, Mewtwo, I never see it. I honestly can't really give you a good gauge on this thing. Machamp is probably right around this, maybe a little better, maybe hanging out there with Lucario. Phalanx doesn't do too bad into some of this speedster meta, but it's just also very rarely played. Azumarill, it doesn't crush it early game enough. Like, Azumarill could use the speedster buffs in a lot of ways. Like, give it more early game presence. Sableye is actually better than this. In your solo queue games, it could be the worst thing in the world, but also some of the best. Comfey, when things are broken, Comfey is kind of broken. Moving it up to our A+ tier. Anytime something in the game is broken, Comfey's value skyrockets. Anytime things in the game are not broken, Comfey's value plummets. It's just one of the worst things ever. Sylveon is fine. It's fine. It actually does okay into the speedsters because it has a decent amount of HP. Tyranitar feels not good in this meta at all. The speedsters actually even rip through it, and it takes so long to get online. Cram is probably with a lot of these attackers right here. Like, I don't know. They nerf this thing, they slightly buff it. And then, of course, we talked about our horse hanging out in the Decidueye Memorial tier. Now, this tier list is largely based on, I would say, a general look at the game. It's not specific to 5-stack. It's not specific to solo. More of my play is solo, duo, trio. So that's what I'm concerned most with, as is most of the community. So that's what I care to kind of focus on. In general, the speedsters are insane. Snorlax is insane. Suicune is insane. And there are a few other Pokemon that are unbelievably good. It's hard to put any one Pokemon in our God tier, because I think there are, honestly, like 6 Pokemon that are all relatively deserving. If we just carve out the fact that all these speedsters don't, have they're not going to be the choice, for me, it's Snorlax. I think Snorlax is the choice. If I have to be friggin' Norse around here, it's Suicune and Snorlax. I do think they are unbelievably good. I think Snorlax is a true raid boss, and it's unbelievable. Suicune, when I first played it, I thought, wow, that's actually a pretty balanced release. And then I realized, oh no, the game is just really unbalanced right now. Suicune is phenomenal. It also could probably use a nerf along with all of these speedsters and Snorlax. I don't know when that will happen or what it will look like. However, I do have to say there are elements of this meta I enjoy, because for the first time in a long time, things are different. And I do think you need that. A game that is live service needs to live and breathe. Now, can it just not be breathing so heavy down my friggin' neck? Can you nerf these guys a little bit? Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I love you guys. I'll see you all next time. We did it. Oh boy, did we do it.